Okay, hey guys, in this video I'm gonna be talking about what are the safe listening levels. I'm sure most of you guys do not know what listening level you listen to audio at, but if it's extremely loud it can actually damage your hearing. And when I monitor my audio like this, I turn up my headphones quite a bit, and I never turn them back down lately. So like I can start playing music or something and it's gonna be way too loud. So I have to keep in mind to turn it down because it will damage my ears. But I'm not gonna just talk about like listening level volume. I'm also gonna talk about equal loudness. There was a study that determined like the ear sensitivity to different frequencies. Okay, and let me show you. It's been a while since I did this setup, so it's a little bit difficult to do. Okay, so this is like the ear sensitivity chart, human hearing range. We can see it's boosted in the bass, it's scooped out in the high mids, because the ear is not very sensitive to bass, and it's very sensitive to the high mids. We can see the treble is boosted because the ear is not sensitive to the treble. So basically there was a study, equal loudness study, to determine an equal loudness contour is a measure of sound pressure levels over the frequency spectrum for which a listener perceives a constant loudness when presented with pure steady tones. The unit of measurement of loudness level is the FON and is arrived at by reference of equal loudness contours. So basically, they did a study where they played different tones from the 20 Hz to 20 kHz human audible frequency range, and they boosted and lowered the volume of different frequencies until they all sounded of equal loudness. Now what they found is we can see these different decibel levels and these different curves at different listening levels, like 60, 70, 80 dBs. They found that they had to adjust the loudness of different frequencies at different listening levels for it to be perceived as flat. So we can see at like 100 dBs, it's seen as like you don't need to do a bass boost at all. But at lower listening levels, you need to slowly increase the bass. But as you get to higher listening levels, it gets flatter in the bass. So this is where the harm and target propaganda came from. Depending on listening levels, will determine how much mud or how much warmth you want to add at 200 Hz. Now if we look at what is a safe listening level, sounds at or below 70 dBA are generally considered safe. Any sound at or above 85 dBA is more likely to damage your hearing over time. Researchers have found that people who are exposed over long periods of time to noise levels at 85 dBA or higher are at a much greater risk of hearing loss. So you don't want to play games with 85 dBA. You don't want to play games with that. You want to be more around 70 dBA. You don't want to be getting close to 85. You're really starting to damage your ears. Sound is measured in decibels. A whisper is about 30 dB. Normal conversation is about 60 dB. And a motorcycle engine running is at about 95 dB. Noise above 70 dB over a prolonged period of time may start to damage your hearing. Okay, so when we look at this chart, 70 right here, has mud, okay? 70 has mud. And if you listen at lower levels, you want to increase the bass. But once you get to like 85, 90, that's when the bass starts to get flat, okay? You know, this is hearing loss level decibels. We don't want to go here. So you can see you scoop out the high mids, you do a treble boost. And the lower the listening level, the more mud at 200 hertz. Okay. And it doesn't, the Harman target, let's look at the Harman target. This is such a weird, the Harman target is so convoluted and goofy. So this is the Harman target kind of thing going on here. Preferred bass response. We can see how, you know, this is basically, you know, varying degrees of bass. Okay. Oops. Preferred bass. So this is why it's so convoluted, because at different listening levels you're gonna want quite a bit more bass or less bass. If you listen too loud, you don't want a bass boost, but you shouldn't be listening that loud because it's damaging your hearing. So all of this frequency range wants this big, bloomy, muddy, warm, boomy bass. Okay. And this is not the reason why my headphone target looks like it does. That's my headphone target. So we got this warm, boomy bass. Okay. We got the high mid scoop. And we got the treble boost. You see that? Okay. You see that? Okay. So I came to this conclusion without even knowing about the equal loudness contour. I just discovered this by studying all the different headphones out there, analyzing measurements, and you know, finding the best tuned audio equipment. So down here we have a lot of different headphones on compared to my target that we can sift through. And we can see most headphones have these cuts, these peaks. They don't have enough bass. They have these tonality problems. That's a very expensive headphone, HD800S. They try to improve it and get rid of that peak, but they still have the cut. They don't have enough bass. And people in the headphone community, they make excuses for the lack of treble on the HD660S, that huge peak right there. The lack of bass. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty, the real-world headphones out there, and how they measure. They don't have enough treble. You know, this one has enough bass. It's so funny how many headphones have these different flavors of not enough bass, not enough treble, huge peaks right there at 5.5K on the 560S. And you just kind of rummage through until we get to the biodynamic DT990s that best match the target. But when you first get them with fresh pads, they're very harsh, and people make fun of these headphones because they're very harsh in the treble when you first get them. But after a few weeks, they smooth out, and we can just go through all these different headphones and see all these peaks and cuts and tonality problems. You know, these lumpy frequencies and deviations. I don't typically talk about the science behind audio, because honestly, you can just like reverse engineer and do listening tests. Like if I put on these headphones, I would be able to tell they don't have enough bass. I would be able to tell they don't have enough treble. I would be able to hear this huge peak right here at 5.5K that's very fatiguing. I can do that with my own ears. But these are measurements that show you, like look at that one. Oh crap. Look at that huge peak. Okay. So audio is very simple. Very simple. And we can see how all of these different headphones measure. so these are all muddy. Look how much mud they have at 200 hertz. Okay, it's not until you get to like 90 decibels that there's no mud. So that's the Harman Target bass boost shelf right there at 80. Let me see. 80. Okay, so once you get to 70, which is where you're supposed to be for listening levels, there's some mud. 60, more mud. 50, more mud. 40, more mud. So the lower you turn down the volume on your headphones, the more warmth and mud and bass boosting you have to do. You don't have to do a bass boost anymore once it gets to like 100 decibels, which severely damages your ears. So again, 70 and below right here is listening levels. So we can see that we want some mud, okay, at 200 hertz. We don't want it flat there until it gets to hearing damage levels, okay. And we can see the scoop at 3, 4K right here at the treble boost, okay. So is that all I wanted to talk about? My hands are starting to shake. So also we can see this Null's Target, the Harman Target and Null's Target. The Harman Target kind of rolls off the treble, and these people did a study and they actually boosted the treble. So the Harman Target, is too thin and too bright. I mean, too rolled off. So, at the end of the day, so here's the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros that I also recommend. And we can see on the diffuse field Target, they also have the 3K scoop, the bloomy bass, the diffuse field treble boost, just like on, oh my god, just like on this, okay. God, it's just not doing it. Okay, so just like on this. Okay, you see that? Okay. Is that all I wanted to talk about? I think that's all I wanted to talk about. So again, sounds at 70 or below are generally considered safe. Okay, remember that. Okay. So anytime somebody says the Harman Target and mud and all this garbage, all you have to do is pull up the equal loudness chart and look at 70 and below and see that there's a lot of mud. Okay, so yeah, this is